I can't believe we're already to episode 26. Welcome into the Hops and Spirits podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Green. We've already done 25 of these things this year. It's amazing. I hope you've enjoyed every one of them. I know I have. And this week's episode's a really good one. We hit both the hops and spirits side of things as we talk with Chris Fredrickson of Traverse City Whiskey Company out of Michigan. And then we also go on the hoppy side of things with Gallant Fox Brewing out of Louisville, Kentucky. They're also a bourbon bar too, so I guess we hit just about everything with this episode. Also, don't forget to check us out on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, at Hop Spirits, all one word. And if you're not following us on Instagram, you might be missing out on our Things We Love holiday giveaway. It's going on right now. You don't want to miss it. It's your chance to win a Chattanooga Whiskey Cask 111 bottle of whiskey in whiskey glasses. That's one of my favorite whiskeys that I'm drinking these days. Also a Gish Pack carrier for the beer lovers. It's a reusable carrier. And then for the foodies out there, who doesn't love some pizza, Pies and Pints $50 gift card, the Things We Love holiday giveaway. And really, all you need to do is follow us, follow a couple other people, and tag some friends. It's really simple. So check us out on Instagram for our Things We Love holiday giveaway. And now let's get into the episode. And joining us here is Chris Fredrickson, co-founder and distiller of Traverse City Whiskey Company in Traverse City, Michigan. Chris, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, I always enjoy these because, you know, it's not like Traverse City Whiskey's been around for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years. How did it get started? And was it really just with you and a couple friends that were getting burnt out?
Something like that. There were a few things that fell into place over the matter of about a year or two. One, yes, a couple of buddies and I that had met at Michigan State were getting burned out from our corporate jobs. But at the same time, my father and I had found a set of my great-grandfather's distilling patents that he had patented during the U.S. Prohibition. And kind of the combination of, the love for whiskey, the passion for whiskey, and discovering some pretty intimate family history alongside two good friends that were eager to get out of the corporate grind. Just the kind of the equation of all that led to an idea that was and is called Traverse City Whiskey.
And had you ever really done anything in the distilling world before that?
No, I did take part in a distilling seminar, several distilling seminars actually, prior to starting the company. One was at Michigan State under the guidance of Dr. Chris Berglund, who, this was really intriguing at the time because, I loved whiskey, but I didn't totally understand the roots of it, in a very thorough way at the time. And after going through this class, it really sparked a lot of enthusiasm for the industry and, what world of whiskey was out there.
And is that, at what point did you guys start, you and your father kind of find that history? Because, it's a kind of a really cool family history of being in the distilling world.
Yeah, we found these patents out at our family's cherry farm up here in northern Michigan back in 2011, and we probably didn't make it more than 6 or 7 months before we kind of took this springboard of an idea of the patents, and over a few whiskeys with my business partners Jared and Moti, we talked about what that could mean for fun. Just as a kind of a side hustle, a side project. And, within a year and a half of finding the patents, we had architected this vision for the company.
And what's it like to, what was your first thought when you found those patents? That had to be like, I don't want to say like Christmas morning, but that had to be kind of a cool feeling.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of let down by my by my family because everybody knew that I personally had a huge interest in this industry, and it's something that I brought up at many family gatherings and was always excited to talk about. And when I found the patents, I talked to my father, I talked to my grandmother. It was her grandfather, and it the unusual thing is everybody said, well, yeah, of course, your great grandfather was um, was a chemical engineer for Dow back in the day and had patented 3 patents during Prohibition. Of course he did. And I was like, you guys have got to be kidding me! Like this is such prime family history that is it directly aligns with everything that you know that I love, and you're just waiting until I find the patents to talk about it. It was um, it was good for a laugh at the time, um, but certainly I was kind of almost like starstruck with the fact that this is something that was so near and dear to our family.
And what's it like to kind of continue on this tradition? Because, like I said, not everyone gets to do something like that.
Yeah, and it's I would say it's less about continuing on a tradition and more about evolving a tradition. Um, my great grandfather, he was a closet distiller, but his vision was always kind of in the corporate world. Working for Dow Chemical, um, he was kind of I want to say like a 9 to 5er. He loved it and he was very passionate about it. But taking that and trying to evolve it and grow, what what history existed has been thrilling and constantly motivating. For the sheer fact that our timing in life, his timing and my timing, were very unique to American history in that these happen to be 2 eras in American economic or cultural societal development where whiskey has just had this really cool um, growth growth spurt, right? Whiskey didn't get quote unquote cool again until early 2007, 2008 up to 2012 when it really got hot. But that culture hasn't existed in the better part of a century, and it's I don't know. I find it really neat that his generation and now our generation is really finding and appreciating um, that trade.
And you hear all these places that say they found the family recipe, hidden in a book, and some of the stories are true, some aren't. But I mean, this is a true story, and I love that you guys have this history that you can share.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's a really fun foundation for the company that we built.
And then, when you guys decided to start, what was the plan then? Because I mean, I'm guessing it wasn't what it's become today.
No, it's grown significantly beyond what we had ever imagined. Um, the original goal of the company of just the brand Traverse City Whiskey Co. was kind of a distraction from our 9 to 5 and something that we could really wake up and be eager to work on in our downtime. And after we sold, um, we had our first probably 6 months of sales between July and December 2012. We realized that we were onto something, and and it's been so much fun with having such steady growth over the past 8 years, watching watching the machine build and grow, and watching and hearing so many cool stories from a lot of our guests and customers, and just that we are on the right trail, and people are really loving and enjoying what we're creating. That's been thrilling, to say the least.
Well, I'll say I've gotten to try a few of your whiskeys, and they've been very enjoyable. What when you guys were first coming up with everything, you guys ended up starting out with a contract distiller because obviously, as anyone knows, the one thing with whiskey is it takes time. How has that kind of evolved over time for you all?
Yeah, so we it's been a bit of a roller coaster. So we did start off with contract production. Actually, technically, we started off with sourcing age inventory. The first opportunity that we had in the um, brand building or company building phase. Like phase one was we had an opportunity to purchase 20 4-year-old MGP bourbon barrels, just 20. And at the time for us, this was an extreme investment. This was like all the chips in one basket, and let's just see what we can do. And by the end of the first year, we had moved through so many of those barrels that we realized we should probably either double down or just be on our way. And we are I don't know, we're a pretty aggressive bunch, Jared, Moti, and myself, and we wanted to kind of just call double or nothing. So we invested in another 20 bourbon barrels. And again, at the time, huge investment, really big investment. And we kept producing. This is how we incubated the company, sourcing aged whiskey. And then as soon as we had things up and moving, we opened up our own shop, and we started construction in 2013. We were live by late 2014. And at that time, we began producing alongside MGP. We were making a substantial amount of rye whiskey. We're capable right now of producing 3 barrels a day. And, MGP would, of course, continue to build an arsenal of inventory with us, which we had kind of committed to retiring our reliance on them in 2018. And it was at that time that our kind of our best-selling product, the cherry whiskey, took off. And it got nearly impossible for us to rely on just ourselves after that. Our traditional mash bill, the 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley, was the recipe that kicked off kind of our sales platform with our straight bourbon. And then that same product is the baseline for our American Cherry Edition, our cherry whiskey. And so I guess just long story short, we started with sourced inventory. We moved to a hybrid model, producing alongside MGP. Tried cutting over in 2018 and just haven't been able to do that thus far.
But now we were kind of chatting a little bit before the episode. You guys do have a new facility, which I'm guessing, or you're in the process of, which should help some things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we currently, this year we've had a few setbacks for obvious reasons. We are in the process of constructing our 24-inch Vendome column, which will take our production capacity from 3 barrels a day to up to 67 on 3 shifts. So it's a dramatic jump in production capability. And we're hoping to have that still online midway through next year. It was supposed to be online in September, so 2 months ago, but we had to halt construction because of the pandemic. So we're eager to steer in our own independent direction. It's a very exciting new venture, and we're really kind of fighting tooth and nail to realize that.
And then you all call yourselves the Whiskey of the North, which, I mean, you're up in Michigan. If anyone doesn't know where Traverse City is, it's a beautiful place. You need to check it out. How does being up there in Michigan affect the bourbon? Because I was reading something about it, how there's, all the studies are down in kind of Kentucky and Tennessee, and things happen a little differently up there because of the climate.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Whiskey of the North. So that is our trademark moniker, the Whiskey of the North. And what does that mean to us? Well, so Traverse City is located up in northern Michigan. We're right on Lake Michigan. We have a very high relative humidity, high moisture content, and typically lower temperatures. And, a lot of times you'll find, just as an example, a lot of these bourbon hounds that are chasing proof down at a lot of distilleries in Kentucky. And, down in Kentucky, because of the difference in humidity and because of the higher temperatures, you know, to back up one more step, there are two things in a barrel. You have ethanol and water, and those are the only two components that age over the course of a barrel's lifetime. Ethanol and water. And down in Kentucky, because of the heat and Kentucky's relative humidity, the water is the first compound in the barrel to evaporate. So when you pop open a barrel, you could expect proofs of 120, 125, 130, up to what you've seen whiskeys as hot as 140. And that's a very normal thing. They pack a serious punch with flavor, and it is fantastic whiskey. However, up in Traverse City, because of our climate, we are governed a bit differently, and ethanol is the first compound in the barrel to evaporate. Now, there's a school of thought and a scientific study that's happened over the past decade that has encouraged that water actually plays better with wood than alcohol. So you're actually going to derive more flavor from the wood or from the barrel, having a higher water content. A lot of times whiskey barrels are barreled up to, right around 120 proof. And we barrel just a bit lower. But because of the ethanol evaporation, that means that more water is now playing with the wood, leading to more dynamic flavor faster, which is something that we really pride ourselves on.
And to get into your whiskeys, you kind of have four main ones, so to speak. You touched on one of them that's kind of probably, I don't know, maybe your best one, the American Cherry Edition. The cherry whiskey, which I think is fitting because you are the cherry capital of the world. Is that just kind of how it all happened? It just made sense where you are with your farm and everything else.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's very well put.
And I must say I really enjoyed it because sometimes you worry about the fruit whiskeys maybe being too much sugary, but I thought it was really refreshing, very sippable, and unlike some of the other ones that I've been lucky enough to try over the course of this podcast, it's a much lower proof. I would say it's an approachable whiskey for almost anyone.
Yeah, no, we would absolutely agree with that statement, and that's exactly why it was crafted the way that it was. Low enough to reach a newer demographic of more novice whiskey drinkers, but also whiskey forward enough to present well to somebody who's a little more experienced.
And then your straight bourbon whiskey, how would you describe that to someone that's whether they're an aficionado or not?
Yeah, yeah. The one word that I always lean toward is versatility, or versatile. It's an exceptionally versatile whiskey in that it marries well in most whiskey cocktails. It can easy to sip neat on the rocks in pretty much any capacity, and it's a great value for what it is. Most craft distilleries will be selling bottles, upward of $40-$50 a bottle, and our straight bourbon, which is one of our poster children, is priced right around $30, depending on what state you're shopping in.
And then obviously you have the barrel proof one, which I really enjoyed that. I thought it was my most favorite. I enjoyed the cherry whiskey as well, but the barrel proof, I enjoyed its tagline of it's kind of you save your most flavorful barrels for that. It's won several awards. I thought it was a tremendous whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It is certainly our most full-bodied expression, and the only difference between the barrel proof and the straight bourbon that we just talked about is really just the age and the proof. So the straight bourbon is right between 3 and 4 years aged, closer to 4 actually, and the barrel proof bourbon is right around 6 years old and at full cask strength.
And then the newest addition to your lineup is the North Coast Rye. It's a blend of two mash bills, 100% rye, and then 95% rye and 5% malted barley. Why did you guys decide to go with that blend and go with the rye whiskey?
Yeah, we kind of hedged a pretty big bet on rye whiskey and are still pretty optimistic that it's going to hit the market in a pretty big way. Um, Rye whiskey is a timeless recipe, and it's one, why the blend? The blend is just that really nice balance between butter and spice. So these are two very traditional rye tasting notes that you get, and we found that our 100% rye um, really just kind of had this overly lovely butter finish, and our 95.5 rye had this zesty spice at the end. And each rye drinker kind of usually loves one or the other. And when we put the two together, the combination was it just made a lot of sense. Really, really long finish, really clean, expressive notes. And we realized that we were onto something. So it's something that we owned early on, and we've really kind of made a staple of our core collection.
And I must say, I was able to try that and the other threes that we just kind of talked about, and I really did enjoy it. It's got a different kind of flavor for someone that may not be used to rye, what a rye whiskey is. But I thought it was still like everything. They're all very approachable and worth a try.
Yep, definitely agree. And it really, the idea behind having enough expressions in a portfolio is to really help cater to several audiences. And if you don't like something as sweet, which typically bourbon has a lot of sweeter notes because of the higher corn content, you may really enjoy something spicier or more buttery like a rye.
And one thing that I loved or love that you guys do is the little 3-pack of the 200 milliliter bottles. How did that come about? Because I mean, that's like the perfect thing to take to someone's house if you're going over for an evening get together. I mean, that's like the greatest little set I've seen.
Yeah, no, that came up because of exactly what we just talked about, which is having that variety in a portfolio. And we wanted to be able to showcase, what we're capable of making across the board at to your point, kind of a gathering of some sort, where you're not tied to one expression or one flavor profile. You can introduce a few.
I love that, and it works perfectly because, like I said, I was able to get three 200 milliliter bottles, try a whole set of them in an evening, and get those unique flavors from all of them. And Chris, kind of before I let you go, I always like to ask this. I know we touched on it where you got the new facility, you'll be able to do a little bit more, but what's next for you and Traverse City Whiskey?
Yeah, so we are right now we're heads down. October, November, December is really the busiest time of year for any distiller. So our schedules right now are fully dedicated through the end of the year. Next year, come February, March, we're going to be revisiting construction on our new facility. Our goal is to have the facility open for tours by the end of Q3 2021, right up here in Traverse City. This will be when we open, we will be the largest family-owned distillery north of Kentucky. And for those of you that don't know, Traverse City is a huge wine country. That's what that part of like agro-tourism is what incubated a lot of growth in northern Michigan. And the experience that we will offer will be very education forward and will be focused on our guest and teaching whiskey in the most easy to understand, approachable way. I personally have been on probably 100 distillery tours around the world, and for the first, I don't know, 25 to 50 of them, I would just get so lost in the weeds about what adding context to what a tour guide was sharing with me. And I've been on one tour thus far that was wildly approachable and fun, because it didn't rely on me being a scientist to understand the specifics of, fermentation or distillation, or, each piece of the process. So all I would say is, next time you or any of your listeners are up in Traverse City, please drop by. We have a tasting room downtown with cocktails. We sell bottles, t-shirts, and hats and all that. Great, fun experience. And come Q3 of 2021, we'll have this new facility open, and it will be big and really damn cool.
Well, and for those that go, well, what else am I going to do in Traverse City? It's a beautiful town. It's there's plenty to do up there, so you definitely need to make the trip. And also, you guys don't just have whiskeys; you even have cherries too, right?
We make world famous cocktail cherries. And Traverse City is the cherry capital of the world, and my family's been growing cherries for 3 generations. And one day at our cocktail bar, we realized that we were buying imported cherries in the cherry capital of the world, and we were ashamed. So we made our own, and they're awesome, and you should definitely try them.
And I was going to say, and there's a plenty of recipes too that you can use with the whiskeys or those cherries. You guys are doing some great things up there in Traverse City, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, and really, thanks for spending some time. It was great chatting, and definitely appreciate the opportunity to showcase kind of what we've invested our lives into.
Really enjoyed our chat with Chris Fredrickson of Traverse City Whiskey Company. They got a cool history, especially his family side of things. I cannot believe that they didn't tell him about that distilling history. That is kind of baffling to me, but it makes a great story, and I was glad he could share that with us. And now let's move on to the hoppier side of things, and we welcome in Roger Huff, co-owner and co-brewer of Gallant Fox Brewing in Louisville, Kentucky. Roger, thanks for hopping on here to talk hops and spirits.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Now, how did you all come up with your name for Gallant Fox?
Well, that's a good question. So my partner and I, there's just 2 of us here, myself and Patrick Workman. We've been homebrewing together for quite a long time, and when we finally decided to get a little bit more serious about it, we knew we needed a brand identity around what we were doing. So we brainstormed over a handful of brew days over a couple of months, and what we decided was that since we were both, Kentucky natives, and we really had a strong love for not just the city but the state that we brew in and that we live in, that we wanted to make sure that our name tied us to the state in some way, and that our overall brand tied us to the state in some way. So our slogan here is Derby City Small Batch Beer, and we love the Derby. We love everything that has to do with the history of it. So Gallant Fox was actually a 1930 Kentucky Derby and eventually Triple Crown winner.
Nice. I love the history there. And now you kind of touched on it. You and Patrick are co-owners, co-brewers, and you started out in home brewing. Is that how you met Patrick? Because I think you guys have been friends for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, actually, Patrick began doing a little bit of brewing when he was in the Army back in the late 90s. So that's how he originally got into home brewing, or really not at home, but brewing on, a home style scale. And Patrick and I met actually in 2008 when we both were working at the same company. Patrick was actually in IT, and I was in marketing and digital media, and we became friends. We worked on a lot of projects that we were releasing together, and we both had done some home brewing, and we had hung out on the weekends, whether it was drinking beer, drinking bourbon, and we decided one winter that we should do a batch together, and then I guess that, as they say, everything else is history. We began brewing much more regularly together, and we made a decision to start pulling money together to buy better and better equipment. That's the home brewer's thing, right? It's a very expensive hobby that becomes more expensive the better you do it. And we upgraded our system and continued to do that until my wife finally kicked us out of our garage.
I guess she wanted it to be a garage again, right?
When the system reached the 1 barrel scale, it was a pretty massive space that we had, and no longer room for her to park in the garage. And that's really what led Patrick and I into not making necessarily a jump to pro brewing at that time, but really making a jump to get a space and renting a small space that we could just do brewing in. That we weren't taking up space in a garage, and that also had a little bit more of a commercial feel to make it some of the aspects of brewing a little bit easier.
And when you guys decided to come up with not just kind of the love of home brewing, but to turn this into an kind of a business adventure, we'll call it an adventure with, especially how 2020's gone. What inspired you guys to make that leap?
Yeah, so in February of 18 was really that winter is when my wife was really pressing us to move the stuff out of the garage. And I think she was tired of scraping her car windows, which, I mean, I can completely agree. So we decided to look for that commercial space. And so in February of 18, we found a space on Frankfurt Avenue. And we moved in, and the original plan was just to homebrew and have a little bit of a space to watch Monday Night Football with our buddies, play some poker, and just have, a guys hang out, or really guys and girls hang out. We had lots of friends over that were friends with us and our wives. And that went on for 6 to 8 months. And we kept getting feedback, from people. Hey, you guys should really think about doing this. We really love your beer. We did a beer called Dirty Peach that we made with chocolate malt. It was the first time a lot of our friends had ever tasted a peach wheat beer that had some darker, roastier grains in it. And people were like, these are interesting beers you're making. We were doing gruits, and, anytime we'd read a book on brewing, we would try to incorporate new practices in. And eventually some adjacent space to us opened up in the building. And, it was really the first time we had serious conversations about, hey, maybe we should do this. So we did acquire that space in September of 18. And then, we still weren't 100% sure we were going to move into pro brewing, but we started the licensing process nonetheless. And then, that was really, we always tell people, we never really made the decision to do it. It just kind of happened.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Now, you guys finally, when did it all click and you guys go, okay, let's see if we can make this happen and open up a brewery where anyone, not just our friends, can come in and try our beer?
Yeah, so after we acquired that new space, I think that's when it started to happen. I started doing all of the licensing for us. And then we actually started, there's a wonderful website that any aspiring brewer knows about that's called Pro Brewer. So we knew that we were going to have to fund this out of pocket, that we made the decision that we didn't want to get loans, and we wanted to build the tap room ourselves, with our own two hands. We wanted to do this as affordable as possible so that we could keep this around for as long as we wanted. So we made that step. We started to acquire used equipment from breweries that were either going out of business or breweries that were making upgrades. So we've got fermentation vessels from Little Harpeth Brewing in Nashville, and we've got vessels from Flywheel Brewing in E-Town, our grain mills from Pivot Brewing in Lexington. So we've driven as far as St. Charles, Iowa, Charles City, Iowa, St. Charles Brewing Company out there, and picked some large fermenters up. So I think that's when it started. When our equipment started to look more commercial, we started to do larger batches. We realized that we were in it. We were going to make it happen. So, we sourced a walk-in cooler from a Little Caesars that was closing, and started to build the tap room out. And we didn't even draw out what we thought it would look like. We just started putting pieces together. And if you've ever been in the tap room, I feel like it organically came together so perfectly. I don't know that we could have drawn it out as well as it's kind of come together. So, as we now are starting to think about expansion in our current building, we're a little torn. We kind of want to do expansion the same way while we want to do it quickly. And we still have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit where we still want to build it.
That's awesome, and I love how it's. I don't want to call it kind of a Frankenstein style build, but I mean, when you think about how you were able to piece everything together, that's an amazing story and just a lot of, I guess, not good luck, but just good eyes, keeping your eyes open for everything.
Yeah, and sourcing stuff that we talk about being a Kentucky brewery. We try our best. We have 10 of our own beers on at any given time, and we have 10 guest taps, and we talk about wanting to showcase, and we really do want to showcase Kentucky beer as much as we can. So we like to put on beer that's outside of Louisville that maybe Louisvillians have not had an opportunity to try. So you'll regularly see stuff from Dreaming Creek or Flywheel or Blue Stallion or Country Boy, like just a lot of breweries, even Darkness out of Northern Kentucky, like a lot of Kentucky breweries. That's what we have a preference for. So when they put unique stuff out, we put it on tap. So it's been just highlighting Kentucky with our beer, and then we did the same thing when we built that tap room out. We got barn metal roofing from barns that were tore down in Frankfurt, and old tobacco barn wood is what makes up our bourbon shelving, and the tables are even old joists from Nulu, which is an area in downtown Louisville from a building that was being rehabbed. So we've tried to bring as much Kentucky into our tap room as possible.
I love that. What's it been like opening? Because you guys finally opened your doors this year in kind of the spring summertime. What's it like opening in 2020 during a pandemic?
People keep asking us, how are you doing? How is opening during a pandemic? And it's like, we've both never owned a business like this before, so we don't know, right? This is all we know right now is being open with masks on and social distancing and, every 30-minute sanitizings. And I feel like, if anything, we're anxious and happy looking forward because we know we can make it work like this. There's only good things to come when things start to get back to normal.
I love that strategy. You don't know any better, so it must be going well.
I'm like, I don't know. People keep asking, "Are you doing good?" And I'm like, I think. I don't know how much better we could be doing. So.
Now, you kind of touched on this with your slogan, Derby City Small Batch. You guys have a couple brewing systems on the smaller scale. So, what style of beers do you guys do? Because I think you guys kind of like to rotate a lot, right?
Yeah, so we have yet to brew the same beer twice, and we've been open since April. So our system we got our system from a brewery out of Detroit who was upgrading. Loaded Dice Brewing. They've been great friends with us. We always try to make good inroads with the people we're sourcing equipment from. So our system's a 3.5 barrel system. So we're getting anywhere from 6 to 8 kegs of beer out. Depending on the grain bill, how big it is, and our system capacity. So we have no preference for beer styles. We want to make sure there's a wide variety, and we always want to make sure that there's something fun on and something. I want someone to come in and try something they've never tried before. So right now we have a Brew It On, which is an old style of beer that doesn't use hops. So that beer we brewed in partnership with a brewery in town called Chimera Brewing, which is a vegan brewery. And we used foraged really roots and grains for it. So like it's made with instead of hops, it's bittered with elderflower, with yarrow and wild gale. So lots of interesting stuff. We have a couple of beer to guards on right now, an IPA. Next week we're releasing our first canned beer, of our first can release, and it's our Christmas ale, Shitter's Full. And it's brewed with sweet orange, cinnamon, ginger, and honey.
That sounds like completely crazy to me to have a beer with no hops. But I'm guessing that's something you guys love to do, and over time have just done a bunch of different recipes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this one, we love that style of beer because it's just so unique. And this one we brewed with a little bit of acidulated malt. So it's very tart on the front end, but it's not necessarily a sour. So it's a good beer for someone who's never tried that style before, especially people who like sours but want to get out and try, other styles of beer. There's a lot of people, I feel like, especially with the new fruited sours that have kind of heavily proliferated the industry recently. I think it's getting people who've never been into beer. So when people come in and they've had those from other breweries, yeah, we've done fruited sours here and we'll continue to do them. But I like to get people to step out of their comfort zone a little bit and try other stuff. So it's been one that's performed really well for us. And I think it's one that will, not that specific recipe, but it's a style of beer we'll continue to do.
I love that, and I've really enjoyed looking at kind of your beer list. I mean, you only got about couple handfuls, maybe less than a dozen, but you've got some very interesting ones. You mentioned kind of that ancient herb ale, a couple interesting farmhouse styles, so a lot of different variety there. And something else you guys do that I find interesting is you've got quite a bourbon collection over there. How did you get into bourbon and beer?
Oh, so I've been into bourbon for as long as I can remember. My grandfather was a big Kentucky bourbon guy and lived in Shively, very close to the original Stitzel Weller. So me and my cousins were kind of ingratiated to the bourbon industry and bourbon, the bourbon the way it used to be before it's kind of, gotten into this whole sourced model where you're drinking the same thing with a million different labels. So our bourbon collection here is very specific to Kentucky. So we like age stated stuff. We like stuff that is Kentucky bourbon. Now there's some Indiana stuff as well, but we have over 150. We actually have a lot more than that. We just don't have room for them yet until we expand the bar area. So we've also taken advantage of Kentucky's Vintage Spirits Act. So we've been able to put some stuff on. We have some stuff from the 70s, some stuff from the 80s. We have some stuff that's Japanese release, some stuff that's the United Kingdom release. So you can come and try a full lineup of the Blantons here. Blanton's Gold, Blanton straight from the barrel, Japanese Black Blantons. We've really tried our best. It's really a passion project for us, right? So we love bourbon, and we know there's a huge amount of bourbon tourism here, and we want people to seek us out for both bourbon and beer. And maybe the bourbon people, we can get them to try Kentucky beer, and the beer people, we can get them to try Kentucky bourbon.
I love that strategy, and the way you're going about kind of the bourbons too is very interesting. I mean, has it been fun trying to track down some of these harder to find bourbons? I mean, that to me, that's almost like a style of hunting all in of itself.
Yeah, so I think that I've been in this a lot longer than a lot of people who've just kind of picked this up in the last few years. So luckily, I have a lot of connections from people who've just been in the industry. This all used to be much easier years ago before it became such a such a thing to wait in lines. People wait outside of stores overnight for some of these bourbon releases. And as I like to tell Patrick, my partner, I'm like, well, the good thing about opening the brewery is that now at least we're allocated some of this, so we don't have to stand out in the cold. So, but we really try our best. We do a bourbon special every week where we're pricing it just above cost for us because we're really trying to get people in to try some of these. Sometimes it's really hard. We hear people all the time who are coming into town who are touring, basically they're touring the bourbon industry. They're going to Woodford and Makers and, Buffalo Trace. And it's really hard for those out-of-towners to get their hands on the bottles they want. So we want to be a place that even if you didn't get to buy the bottle after a release, you can come here and we have it at a price that's very palatable for you to try something. So you can, if it's worth hunting down and paying what you have to pay when you don't find it at retail.
Yeah, that secondary market can be kind of scary, but I enjoy too to see that you price something where people can actually enjoy it. Like they can actually go out and have that 1 ounce pour or 2 ounce pour, because sometimes there's just bottles that sit up in a bar and no one really ever goes for them.
Absolutely. We had Weller Antique last week, I believe, for $7 an ounce, and we've had the Blanton straight from the barrel for 10. I mean, that's a very expensive bottle and stuff and a bottle that I believe that nobody in town's really had unless you're really, really into the bourbon industry. So we've even had distributors come through who will sit down because they see bourbon. We had a guy who was an ex-executive from a bourbon company who saw a bottle from his company from the 80s, and he's like, I've never tried that. And so he sat and had a few pours. So it's really nice to connect with people, because I feel like it's something that people love here in Kentucky.
Oh, absolutely. They love their spirits, their beer. Kentucky's a very interesting place for that. What's it like? I mean, because bourbon and beer both kind of have that same quality of, they can pull up a seat at the bar, socially distanced when things like that can happen. What's it like to just get to chat with folks that may be trying bourbon or beer for the first time, or you're trying to get them to try something new?
Oh, I love it. It's my most favorite part of the job. My partner knows that. I'm definitely a huge people person, and the most rewarding part of opening this bar is being able to meet people and talk with people, and create a space for people to make memories in. So, like, being able for someone to come in and they tell me what they like and they want to try something different, whether it's it's a style of beer and they'd like, I like this mass-produced beer. Do you have something similar? Or, hey, I like this bourbon. Can you tell me something that's more unique? I see you have, I think it's a little overwhelming when you look at our bar. I mean, we're just packing bottles on top of each other, right? So, and I always tell people there's hidden gems everywhere you go. I can look at a bourbon list and tell you what to buy. So we try to do that. And I would also say that I think people are also used to going to bars and it's always the same wells, right? Old Forester everywhere. And we love Old Forester here, but we're a bourbon bar, right? And we're here for bourbon and beer drinkers. So our well is Old Bardstown bottled in bond, 100 proof, and we sell it for $4 an ounce and a half, because we want to be a place. We love that bourbon. We love the Willet line of stuff that they carry, and I think it's just such a good expression. And we turn a lot of people onto that as their daily drinker. I think just helping people discover those is very fun for us.
Like I said, the way you're doing it makes perfect sense on a way to get people to try different expressions and things like that. And I love to hear that. And my last question for you, Roger, is what's next? I mean, you guys are young. You got a little bit of beer, got some bourbon. What's next for Gallant Fox?
Well, this next week we're going to do our first ever can release. So we're excited to get into the cans and start to put some stuff out. Obviously we're not distributing yet. We're very hopeful that the legislative session this year activates self-distribution in Kentucky like so many other states have done, because Gallant Fox would love to put our beer in some retail establishments. We have friends that own a number of restaurants and bars locally. We'd love to do, customized brews for those specific places. And we're expanding here, within the next 6 to 9 months, you'll see us making changes on our building, opening up some stuff and adding some seating on the inside. And, we never know. We don't close our eyes to anything. So, there's some big things planned for the next year or two.
I love to hear that. And I can't wait to get over there and check everything out.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to have you in.
It was really fun talking with Roger Huff, co-owner, co-brewer of Gallant Fox Brewing in Louisville, Kentucky. Neat place with some interesting styles of beer and over 130 different bourbons, all at very reasonable prices too, which I just love that, where you can actually go there and try things that you might not be able to find anywhere else. Remember, don't forget to check out our friends, One Sip Beer Review on Instagram. They do near daily beer reviews. They do giveaways. They have a lot of fun with their videos. Check them out at One Sip Beer Review on Instagram. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Hop Spirits, all one word. And on our Instagram page, Things We Love Holiday Giveaway. Don't miss it. Your chance to win some great prizes. Until next time, cheers, everyone.